Come on, man. Just fight already. Take a swing. Shoot her. These were all words of encouragement that were thrown Josh's way as he was fighting in the arena. Josh and Demon had turned up to Miss Goodwich's class completely drunk, and so they were chucked into fights immediately. Demon had recovered from his drunken state almost quickly, as he just activated his stims to purge the alcohol and could fight semi-decently. He was pitted against Ren, winning after Ren made the mistake of staying within striking range of Demon's Odachi. By then, Josh had grabbed a stim pack and used it on himself as well, being completely sober by his fight. The only problem was that he was a pacifist. He was set to fight against Kira, and was currently losing very badly. She had decided it would be too easy to engage at long-range combat, and switched to her weapon to its two-handed Khopesh form, and began a melee battle. The rules for the battle were a bit different for this battle, as Josh hadn't unlocked his aura, so Kira had placed a rubber blocker on the sharp edges of the blade to ensure it didn't kill him, while Josh was still allowed live rounds, which he still didn't use. The match began as they all expected, Kira running forward in a battle cry, Josh turning tail and running. After he was cornered, he fired a couple rounds at her feet to try and encase them in ice and deter the attack, but she smashed the ice. He had then turned his weapon into a hand-and-a-half sword and began an assault to try and escape his corner. He made for a massive overhead slash, and when Kira blocked the telegraphing swing, he activated the ice dust and froze the blade over Khopesh, causing her to lose her balance and for the blade to drop to the floor. Using the opportunity, he fled to the center of the arena and turned to Goodwish and yelled over the taunts coming from the crowd. "I'm a pacifist. I made a promise to only hurt those who will prevent further loss of life. When it will prevent further loss of life. And especially don't want to hit her because she's a girl." "Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Daiquiri, but you're going to have to beat Kira for your team to qualify for the tournament, as their place has already been insured." "I don't want to fight her." "Would you want me to end the match now, then?" "No." "Well, I suggest you get fighting." Josh turned to see Kira, who was about a meter away from him, and ready to smash him. She swung her Khopesh in a heavy upward strike, right into his groin. Every male in the room immediately cringed, and Josh collapsed to the floor in pain. He rolled around for a few seconds, groaning, as he tried to recover from the blow. "Dude, I think you just killed your entire future generation," Demon called to him, laughing at his predicament and remembering when he stole Rosalie's dropship. Josh slowly made his way to his feet and set himself up in a two-handed offensive stance, setting his right foot back and holding his sword pointed straight at Kira. "Oh, you're going to pay for that," he croaked out, still recovering from the blow. "Pfft, I thought you won't hit a girl." As she said that, something changed in Josh, although only 3 people noticed it. Demon, Blake, and Ren. Because of Blake's faunus heritage, Ren's attentive nature, and Demon's heightened senses from the stims, they were able to see something that confused them all. They all saw that he was completely lax for a half-second, and that when he went back to normal, his posture was completely different. His eyes were slightly bloodshot, and when they looked closely, they saw a bit of black smoke coming from his nose. When he spoke, it sounded the same, although people were listening carefully. It sounded as though he was saying the same thing barely a millisecond after he spoke the original, making it sound as if there were 2 people. "I made an oath to never kill unless it was absolutely necessary. It doesn't stop me from breaking every bone in your body." Josh then cut it out in a horizontal arc, straight at Kira, and caught her in the arm before she could bring her Khopesh to block. The 2 battled. He swung around for another. Their swing, but it was blocked by her sword. Josh spun around and flung the Khopesh out of her arms. She was completely defenseless, and Josh took the advantage of this. He cut and slashed as quickly as he could, and quickly cut through Kira's aura until it broke, but he didn't stop. He slashed across her stomach, and a massive gash appeared. She screamed and stumbled back, blood splattering on the floor and Josh's sword. Demon rushed into the action. Quick as a flash, he had Josh in a headlock, knocking the sword from his hands. "What the hell?" Demon growled, beginning to choke Josh to stop him from struggling. Josh seemed to snap out of whatever had happened to him, and saw what he had done. Demon noticed the change and released him. Kira was coughing on the ground, spewing blood all over the combat floor. Her breaths were ragged, raspy. "Shit, what happened?" he asked groggily. "What do you mean what happened? You just cut her." "Crap, wait a sec." Josh quickly jumped forward and kneeled over the bloody body of Kira, beginning to heal her. He watched as the wounds over her stomach healed up, and he breathed a sigh of relief. And the wound finally healed. Kira began breathing normally. The Good Witch immediately was out of sight, performing other checks, looking into your eyes, checking your stomach again. She tapped a few buttons on her skull, and the medical staff were there within minutes, collecting her and helping her to the hospital ward at the school. "Mr. Dacre," began Miss Good Witch, her voice filled with accusation and anger. "What possessed you to attack Miss Dirac after her aura broke?" "I don't know," he replied, holding his head in pain. "Are you expecting me to believe that excuse?" "I'm sorry, I'm being honest. After she smashed me, I blacked out and came to just as Dean was choking me." Miss Good Witch gave him a hard glare, looking into his eyes to see any signs of lying, but found none. "Alright, class. All lessons are cancelled for the remainder of the day. Dismissed." She turned sharply and stormed out of the classroom, following the path that the medics took. Every other student quickly made their way out of the class, while the group stayed behind to question Josh. Demon grabbed him by the shoulder and looked deep into his eyes. Saw something he didn't like. In the very middle of Josh's pupils were two tiny red dots. The same thing that had happened to him when Kelzar first came into his head. He took a step back and quickly questioned him. "Did you hear a voice?" Yeah? Shit. Calazar, where the hell are you?"
"Damn it, you don't need to shout. What do you want?"
"What did you do to Josh?"
"Well, I might have accidentally left a part of me in him when I took control of him during his fight with the Ice Queen."
"Well, then get it out."
"Why, it makes him better."
"Get it out."
"Jeez, now all you need to do is slice his neck."
"We both know you're lying."
"It was worth a shot. Give me a second."
Josh went limp for a second, and Demon began to hold his shoulders to stop him from hitting the floor. After that, he quickly came to, and the red spots in his eyes were gone. "Damn it, Calazar. Next time something happens like this, tell me for God's sake." He didn't receive any response, so he helped Josh over to the chair. He told the others to go and check on Kira while he spoke to Josh, which they hesitantly complied to do. "Josh, forget about the voice you heard. I was told it helps to stop it happening." Demon lied, making sure he made it sound as convincing as possible. "Sure, it just hurts a bit," replied the pilot, holding his head. "So what do you want to do now that the afternoon is free?" "Well, I was going to ask if I could borrow your motorcycle after school." "Yeah, no," Demon replied with a monotone voice, making sure he got the point. "Please, I really need it. Give me one reason." "It's my birthday." Demon stared at him straight in the eye and knew he wasn't lying. Pilots were trained to notice signs of falsehood during interrogations. So far, Josh showed up as though he was telling the truth. "I will allow you to take the cycle, Demon began, Josh's face lighting up with hope. On the condition that you take us along as well. Grrr. No. Trust me. They will find some way to ruin it. If they don't know it's happening. Just tell everyone, and you will have a good time. Josh just mumbled, and Demon knew he had won. Well, at least one good thing came out of this. Demon added, walking towards the door. Oh, really? What could that have possibly been good about this? Well, I think unlocking your aura is a pretty good thing. What? Demon just pointed over at the stance and saw something that made no sense. His gauntlet was sitting on a seat. But hadn't he healed Kira? I didn't expect you to unlock your semblance or aura at the same time, but I guess the world works in strange... The world is a strange place. Demon concluded as he walked back to his pod, after throwing the keys of Cerberus to Josh and leaving him to his thoughts. Demon had honestly thought that when he had told Josh to help out, he would have sprinted over and grabbed his gauntlet. But apparently the adrenaline in his system made him completely glance over the fact that he didn't have it, and made him heal her anyway. Aura works in strange ways. He made it back to the pod and was immediately greeted by a very angry Weiss. You, she said, glaring at him. Back before the initiation, you said you regretted killing people because you saw their faces every day. But then today, you said that you couldn't remember them. What's up with that? Well, if I told you back then that I remembered everyone that I had killed but couldn't see their faces, what would you have thought? That you were insane? Exactly. Demon walked inside the pod, Weiss following him, and saw Marcus was in the process of dismantling his old pilot helmet. Hey, put that down. Marcus quickly darted up and stared at Demon for a few seconds before assembling the helmet back together, his hands moving fast as darts. I'm sorry, Captain. I was just curious. I began to have strange visions of technology. What? Well, I was looking around your pod and suddenly, as I was inspecting a Hammond pistol, the inner workings of it were revealed to me. After I dismantled the pistol, I focused on your helmet and found something strange within the back half. What do you mean, strange? Well, it appears that it has been modified to fit an extra storage component. That would be an AI. I'm afraid that is not the point. I found this. Demon added, revealing a small data chip in his palm. It was roughly the size of a standard USB, except it was a bit flatter and wider. Demon took the small chip and plugged it into his laptop, began to try and access the files, only for it to prompt him with an encryption. Damn it, Demon swore, opening a file on his laptop and began the decryption process. The file estimated time until decryption, but it never came. The program ran for a minute to try and estimate, but when it ended, it only came up with an error symbol. The device couldn't be encrypted. Or decrypted. What? Demon spoke, not believing this was possible. Not even high-end security systems within the IMC had enough level of coding. I already tried that, Marcus interrupted. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me? Point taken. It was a specially designed system so that it only activates through one thing. Blood. A specific person's blood, to be exact. Demon regarded this with interest before putting up the small chip and spying a pin at the center of it. With a bit of hesitation, he pulled off his gauntlet and undersuit gloves, pricking his finger against the small pin. A tiny light on the side of the device blinked red a couple of times before turning solid green. Demon plugged it back into the laptop. The file opened fine this time. The screen went black for a few seconds, turning the static for another 3 and switched to a blue screen. After a few seconds passed before a small download bar appeared and a load symbol appeared. Time until completion, 3 days, 3 hours, 57 minutes. Well then, it looks like we're going to have to wait a while before this gets done, Demon chimed, moving his laptop off his workbench and plugging it into a charger. Why seemed to be in a daze for a few seconds before she turned to Marcus. with a confused look on his face. Why did you address Mr. Demon as Captain? Why did you address Demon as Captain? His full rank title is Captain First Class Commander of the 56th Militia Legion and Arms Master of the Silent Prayer. Marcus listed, bringing up Demon's file from his database. He was raised to the rank of Captain after commandeering an IMC vessel during the raid over Demeter, and was later given command of the 56th Legion after 17 successful single-handed raids performed by the Silent Prayer. So, you have an army? Questioned Weiss, not understanding the rank. You could say that. I have a total of 5,000 men and women under my command, as well as control over a refitted IMC transport carrier. It's almost the same as being in control of one of those giant ships that the Elysian military put out in front of Beacon as giant eyesores. And you didn't tell us? Didn't come up as a topic. You're so annoying. Back onto the topic. So Marcus and Josh have managed to unlock their aura and semblance, which is very annoying. Weiss just gave him a deadpan look. Okay then, keep being silent, Snow Angel. Just give me a second. Weiss blushed a bit as he said her lesser-used nickname while Demon just smiled, pulled up a file on his HUD and phoned everyone except Josh. Everyone, get to the pod now. It's a massive emergency. In the next 5 minutes, everyone was inside the pod and sitting, waiting for Demon to talk to them. Friends, today is a dark day for us all. No more pancakes? Nora shouted from the stands, her face dropping instantly and fear crossing her features. Quite possibly, Demon responded, deciding to go along with the redhead antics. If you do not, make sure to complete the most crucial part of the plan I have devised. What are you talking about? Asked Sean, not quite getting the point. Well, today is a very dangerous day, my friends. Today is Joss's birthday, so we are going to make it as good as possible. And it's going to be nothing like my birthday, Demon announced, staring at Ruby, who shied back a bit. Demon emailed them their jobs, and everyone nodded in agreement, except Jaeger. Why am I stuck with cleaning? Well, I would have stuck Josh with it if it was someone else's party, but you're the next best for the job. Jaeger just grumbled and walked off, grabbing the broom from the side of the pod. So, we all have our jobs. Let's go. Demon ended, pumping his fists in the air and letting everyone go. This is going to be the best party ever. 5 hours later. By now, it was just past midday at Beacon. Everyone was almost ready for the party. Yang, Kira, and Tempest had driven to Junior's bar and procured as much alcohol as they could, using Yang's persuasive skills to be able to buy enough for probably the whole school. Ruby, Rosaline, Blake, Nora, Pyrrha, and Weiss had gone shopping, buying food and supplies for the party, making sure they only got one cake this time, for the most expensive decorator in Vale, much to Weiss's chagrin. Jean, Ren, and Demon were in charge of decorating, having to argue for 20 minutes just to convince the girls that they could do it properly. They had procured a training room to use for their party after Demon agreed to meet after the first round of the Vital Festival and give the schematics for equipment used by the militia. It is now thoroughly partied up, as Yang called it, and the girls approved of the setup. All the equipment was set off to the side, and there were a couple of tables around the room for drinks and food. Demon ripped the head off a Spectre and linked it up to his laptop so that it could act as a makeshift projector on a large back wall. There was a couple of couches and a ring around the wall so people could properly watch it as well. Ruby, Juniper, Drisk, and the Angels, minus Josh, were waiting in the hall for Josh to arrive, as well as other people they had invited, which was practically half the school. Demon made sure to invite as many people as he could, so he went down every dorm in the first and second years. So there were about 100 people coming in total. They called in Josh to arrive 30 minutes before everyone else was scheduled to arrive, so they had time to have a small personal party beforehand, before the big one got started. Everyone was wearing their formal gear like the dance. Demon complained until he was convinced by Rosaline to change into his tailcoat and hood, once again forcing him to braid his hair to get the hood to sit properly. Joshua was set to be here any minute, and they waited. Demon playing a game of chess against Sid. Okay, guys, what do you need? Came the voice of Josh as he opened the door to the training area, stopping a few seconds after he saw the setup and everyone standing around. Happy birthday! Shouted everyone at the same time, except Demon. Damn it, he yelled, slamming the table in rage as Sim beat him yet again. He turned to see everyone looking at him, as well as Josh. Oh, happy birthday? He added, tilting his head in guilt. Yang just walked over and punched him. Hey, okay then, let's get this party started, Demon announced, standing up and trying to look heroic, until Yang punched him again. 2 hours later, the party had gone pretty well, everyone having a great time and most of the guests showing up. Demon was sitting on a couch chatting to Yatsuhashi and Fox about how just Fox was able to see so well while he was blind. He was just about to get a good answer when he was interrupted by Josh tapping his back. He turned to see a thoroughly drunk Josh with a massive smile plastered on his face. Let's go, man. You just gotta get you wasted, he slurred, shoving a beer bottle in Demon's face. He just facepalmed and took the bottle, throwing it to Fox, who caught it midair somehow. He turned around again to see Rosalie next to Josh. Oh, come on, Demon. You gotta try this beer, she slurred, anger filling Demon as he turned to Josh. You got her drunk? He accused, Josh's face instantly dropping. Stop yelling, man, he complained, holding his head and looking all around the place. Yeah, right as this shit always happen. He grabbed Rosalie and led her out of the party, the girl not being able to walk properly without holding onto Demon with support. He took her to his pod and got out one of his sleeping pills, mixed it in with a beer bottle that he had filled with water. Here, drink this, he said, offering the bottle to Rosalie, who gurgled it down before setting it on the table. She looked confused for a second before her eyelids started to droop. She walked over to Demon and slumped onto him, the pilot having to hold her up before to stop her from falling to the floor. I'm just gonna sleep for a while, she spurted out before slumping into his arms and snoring loudly. Demon just cursed his luck for the medicine working so fast. He had at least hoped that she could walk back to the dorm. He grabbed her and picked her up, Rosalie subconscious wrapping her arms around his chest. He took her back to the dorm, not seeing anyone else up on his walk. He had a bit of trouble opening the door, but eventually got in, setting Rosalie down in her bed. He pulled the sheets up to cover her body and tucked her away before leaving, only to be stopped. Rosalie was holding onto his arm, her eyes still closed in sleep. Please don't leave, she mumbled softly, holding tightly onto Demon's arm. Damn it, stupid sleeping pills, they should have knocked her out.
Or you could have killed her.
Shut up. Sorry, but I have to go to sleep now, Demon responded, deciding to be kind to the drunk Rosalie. You can sleep with me, she offered innocently, Demon's face instantly turning red. If only she knew what she was saying now. Sorry, but I have to sleep in my own bed tonight. Nah, she cried out, her other hand reaching up and holding his arm even more. God damn it, I'm gonna kill Josh for this. He tossed the idea over for a few seconds, knowing that Rosalie would probably never speak to him again if he actually slept in a bed with her. So he tried to get out of the death grip she had on his arm. He first tried to pry open his fingers, the girl somehow being able to hold on despite his strength. So he tried to twist out of it, wriggling his arms until he was about to get out, until she gripped him even tighter. God damn it. He then noticed something, the fact that she was holding on to his bracer. He undid the clips on his bracer and slowly slid out of it, trying not to disturb her and make her tighten her grip again. He managed to slip out and thanked whatever divine being gave him escape, and he turned to get back to his pod until he heard crying. He swore again and turned to see Rosalind, clutching the bracer to her chest, crying through her clothes. I can't catch a break, can I? His heart broke yet again. He walked over to Rosalind, grabbed her hand, taking the bracer away and lying down on the bed next to her.
Well, this is embarrassing.
You don't say. Rosalind rolled over and hugged Demon tightly, pulling him closer to her and making him blush even more. I'm not going to live this down, am I?
Not a chance in hell.
Demon fell asleep in the warm embrace of Rosalind, not seeing the faint smile that crept onto the girl's face. A smile of triumph. Rosalind, you sneaky son of a bitch! Or just sneaky bitch. I don't know. I'm sorry I'm a bit quiet in this one. It's, well, kind of early. I woke up not that long ago. And I had a very, very rough day yesterday. So, yeah. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.